So you've Googled it, you've asked the group chat, you checked the astrology charts, and you still don't trust what you already knew. In our last video, we met the magician. We talked about how you have all of the tools you need set out on the table. But what happens when you don't know which one to pick up next? Today, we'll meet someone that knows exactly what to do with that paralysis. And we'll move from, I have everything I need, to, I know exactly what to do next. Grab your drink, maybe a journal and a pen. Today, we're looking at card 2, the High Priestess. Today, I'm showing you what this card sees that you don't, and why your best move right now is not collecting more information. It's more trust. We'll break down the symbols on this card, look at 4 different decks, and I've got a question at the end that's going to stick with you. Hi, I'm Allison, founder of See Yourself Coaching and Allison Knows It All. Welcome back to Tarot Club, where we leave behind the good girl persona and start living at full volume. In this series, we look at the tarot deck and dive into the symbols and images and colors, one card at a time. If you missed the earlier videos on the Fool and the Magician, I will leave a link to that playlist for you. So the High Priestess is card 2 in the Major Arcana. And similar to the Magician, she is a bridge between the spiritual realm and the physical realm. But there's a major difference. The Magician has tools that he uses to manipulate his physical reality and bring his dreams and visions into being. The High Priestess, her power doesn't come from doing, it's from knowing. She deals with intuition, dreams, and the spiritual laws that lie behind material reality. So let's take a look at what's on the High Priestess card. I'm again using a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And if you don't have a deck at home you can follow along with, go ahead and pause this video if you need to. But start to take a look at the pictures and symbols and start to piece together a meaning. And don't worry about what the booklet says or Googling it, but what do these pictures and colors and images, what story does that bring to mind for you? So the High Priestess is wearing a white gown and flowing blue robe. This blue robe represents divine wisdom and intuitive knowledge. And the white gown kind of flows into water at the end, which brings in emotions and intuition. The crown she's wearing is often linked to that of Hathor or Isis, and it's often referred to as a horned diadem, which is another name for some sort of crown or other thing that sits on a royal person's head. So it's got the full moon symbol in the middle, and with the other 2 pieces of the crown, it looks like the triple moon goddess symbol, which is the waning, waxing, and full moon. And that is associated with the maiden mother crone archetype, which represents the female life cycle and ancestral wisdom. She's pictured with a cross on her chest, and this is a symbol of balance. It represents the 4 seasons, the 4 main elements, and the 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. It also represents cycles and the wheel of the year. So there's a crescent moon at her feet, and the moon is associated with emotions and dreams and intuition. Having it placed at her feet tells us she has dominion or power over her own thoughts and the subconscious realm. It represents her connection to the divine feminine, intuition, and natural cycles. It's also interesting to consider that in the night sky, a crescent moon gives off a little bit light, but not enough to really reveal any information for your eyes to see. Kind of keeps everything covered mysteriously. Speaking of covered mysteriously, there's a scroll in her lap, and you can see the letters T-O-R-A. And this partially covered scroll might be referencing the Jewish spiritual laws, the Torah, or it could be an anagram for the letters in the word tarot, or both. This implies that sacred wisdom is available, but you have to consciously pursue it. You have to lift back that veil, so to speak. So the High Priestess is seated on a square stone, which represents stability and also the natural world. And she's seated between the two most prominent symbols on this card, which are the black and white pillars on either side of her. Now, these pillars with the letters B and J represent pillars that were at the entrance of King Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. The black pillar with the letter B stands for Boaz, which is in Hebrew means in his strength. And this black pillar represents the feminine side, passivity, receptiveness, and mystery and hidden knowledge. On the other hand, the white pillar with the J, that's Yakin, which means he will establish. This is the masculine symbol, and the white represents things being exposed versus the black pillar with things being hidden or concealed. These pillars are symbols that are used in esoteric systems such as Freemasonry and Hermeticism. And in this card, they are very powerful symbols of duality, opposites, and balance. Think of them as kind of a yin-yang symbol. So these are very clear symbols of opposites and duality, and the High Priestess sits right smack in the middle of these two. She has learned to live in balance and an equilibrium between these two forces. And she tells us that the truth is found somewhere in the middle, not to either extreme. The veil or curtain behind the High Priestess is decorated with pomegranates and palm leaves. And this veil or curtain represents the separation between the conscious and subconscious realms. Now, these pomegranates and palm leaves form a pattern that resembles the Kabbalistic tree of life, which is another esoteric system referenced on this card. The pomegranates are a symbol of Isis and also Persephone. You may know of the Greek goddess of the underworld, linking this card to themes of life, death, and rebirth. Pomegranates are a feminine symbol and are also a sign of fertility and abundance. When you think of breaking it open and it's got all of those dozens of seeds inside, things that have a lot of seeds inside are often a sign of abundance. Then the palm leaves are a masculine symbol. And this veil represents, again, the division between the spiritual realm and the physical realm. Some casual walker by is not going to be able to see what's going on behind the scenes. They have to consciously peel back that curtain and seek it out. So the High Priestess is associated with the element of water. We see that in her gown that is flowing. Water is linked to the moon. And we can also see in between the veil and the pillars, we can see what looks like maybe some water behind her. Now, since the moon is associated with this card, it also brings in Cancer, which it rules over. So that would be the astrological sign that is associated with this card. Numerologically speaking, obviously this card is the sign of number 2. But I also think that in addition to all of the duality and balance symbols, there's also an association with the number 4, especially in the stone block that she's sitting on. It gives heavy themes of stability and balance. The chakra that I believe applies here would be the third eye. As I was studying this card, doing a little research, others were saying the crown or the throat or the sacral, and I think arguments can be made for each of those, but for me, the third eye is the one that most represents the energy of the High Priestess. I mentioned in the last episode that I am a crystal girly, and so 2 obvious stones here would be moonstone and selenite, but there's a third one that's actually not truly a crystal, but I would say a pearl would also be a great symbol here. It does have associations with water and the moon. It looks like a full moon. My herb of choice for this card would be mugwort, and that one's long been associated with sleep, dreams, and the subconscious realm. So when the High Priestess shows up in a reading, she's not really giving you information. She's telling you that the answers lie within, right? You already have the answer. That's what she's telling you. This is a time to pause. Stop collecting more data. Stop polling your friends. Trust what you know, even when you don't necessarily have tangible proof. She's not asking you to act. She's asking you to know and trust that knowing, even before the evidence catches up. In a reading, this card suggests that not all facts are known. Some things may be hidden. Maybe you are not connected enough to your intuition, or maybe some other person in the situation is not revealing all the facts. So again, this is not a time to act, but a time to pause and reflect and think on what you know inside. Trust your intuition, be patient, and know that everything will be revealed in due time. Other meanings are along the lines of what we saw in the symbolism. Intuition, mystery, sacred knowledge, the subconscious mind, divine feminine. I mentioned in the last episode, a lot of people use tarot to answer yes, no questions. Of course, the High Priestess is not going to be that obvious. She's going to be more of a neutral answer. She is, again, telling you, look inside for the answers. Look inside yourself to find the answer. Now, reading the High Priestess in reversal can be tricky. I always say, as a rule of thumb, for reversals to take the upright meaning and Uno reverse it. That's really tough in a card that's all about balance. So I have two thoughts for you. The first is that when it comes up reversed, you have been passive or inactive so long that now you are afraid to take action. And the other is that something is blocking your intuition, whether it's some external force, or most likely you're just not tuned in. And so you need to kind of block out that external noise and really tune in to what's going on inside. So let's look at the High Priestess in some other decks. So the Modern Witch is my current favorite deck, and I love how most of the cards really mimic what's going on in the Rider-Waite-Smith, but obviously updated with more modern imagery. So the High Priestess here, we see there are definitely some differences. Instead of the blue and white robes, she's got this purple dress on. Purple is definitely a symbol of mysticism, so it really fits the esoteric vibes of the original card. I'm also not seeing a lot of water represented here. I mean, I see the moon, obviously that's connected to water, but there's nothing else really going on here that says water to me. Strikingly, instead of a scroll on her lap, she's got a laptop. And so thinking about how is that partially covered like the scroll in the original. And so I came up with two things. One would be that not everyone has access to this computer. She's obviously got the password. Maybe her partner or assistant or a couple friends have her password. So that knowledge is there, but not everyone can access it. Alternatively, think about when you're near someone in a coffee shop or an airplane that has their laptop on. You can sometimes see part of it, but maybe not what's fully going on the screen. Otherwise, the crown, pillars, veil, all of these symbols do appear in this modern card. This is the Everyday Tarot, and definitely a minimalist deck. Now, I do love the imagery, but I feel like a lot of the symbolism can get lost when you pare down the images so far. I don't see any water going on. I don't see a veil between the pillars. But a lot of the major elements are here with the pillars, the crown, the moon. The scroll has been replaced though, and the High Priestess in this card is holding a crystal ball. And you know I had to bring back the Alice in Wonderland deck. I felt like the Cheshire Cat was such a great stand-in for the High Priestess. In this deck, the card is called The Mystery, and it's so interesting to consider that serene and religious High Priestess has been replaced with this mischievous, kind of troublemaking cat, right? We know that Cheshire Cat is holding a lot of secrets, and he is causing more confusion than revealing information. So in keeping with the pop culture theme, I wanted to consider some other characters that embody the High Priestess image. And so I thought of 11 from Stranger Things, definitely a mysterious person. 11 is definitely connected to something beyond the physical plane. The High Priestess sits in front of that veil that separates reality from the subconscious or supernatural realm, and 11 dives into that. She goes beyond that veil into the upside down. And she does it not with action, but with focus and stillness. Galadriel from Lord of the Rings possesses that inner knowledge. She can see into others' minds, and she operates through vision and prophecy. She sits in a liminal space, much like the High Priestess sits in the space between the two pillars. She speaks in riddles, feelings, and implication. And this kind of reminds me more of the Cheshire Cat, where she may not give you what you asked for, but what you need. And for the first time, I'm using some real life characters from modern culture that I feel embody the High Priestess energy. And that would be Stevie Nicks. She has built her entire identity around mystery, feminine intuition, mystical. And she's famously spoken about not being able to fully explain where her songs, where her music comes from. That's the High Priestess, that knowing comes, and instead of trying to logic it out or where did this thought come from, she just makes music out of it. She trusts it without needing to dissect it. Similarly, Florence Welch from Florence and the Machine has also been open about not fully being able to explain her process, but she takes feeling over logic, and her sources of truth are dreams and mythology. Our whole lives, we've been told that serious people aren't successful this way, and Stevie and Florence have proved that to be false. Another one to consider replacing the High Priestess would be Lilu from The Fifth Element. There's a lot to unpack there. What other characters or real life folks do you think fit the High Priestess archetype? Let us know in the comments below. So whether you're channeling your inner Lilu or just trying to navigate the upside down like 11, the High Priestess is all about that unseen language. And she's not just reading the scroll in her lap, she's writing it. Since this is Tarot Club, I thought we could write our own Tarot Club Oracle deck. A set of modern symbols for the things we know but don't always say. I've got the first two cards to start the deck, and I want you to help me write the third. So the first one I came up with is the incognito browser tab, right? It's searching for hidden knowledge that we're not ready to bring to public light yet. And the second is the unsent draft, whether it's that spicy email you wanted to send to your boss or that passionate post you wrote but haven't hit send yet. It's not that you haven't sent it out of fear, but knowing that some things are just for you and not for everyone else to consume. So what's the third card? Let me know in the comments what you think, what your best modern archetype for this card would be. So now I need card number 3. So drop a comment below of what your take for this modern symbol for intuition or hidden knowledge should be. Let us know in the comments below. I love that someone's going to drop like the Zoom background and we're all going to immediately know exactly what they're talking about. Curating or blurring out what's going on behind you. It's that gap between what you're showing and what you know. That's exactly what the High Priestess is pointing to. So here's what I see. You already knew before you Googled it, before you asked the group chat. You already knew. And I say this not to make you feel bad, but to sit with the energy that it took to go out and collect all this information, just to avoid having to trust what you already knew inside yourself. I see brilliant, capable, accomplished women running themselves ragged, trying to collect outside information so they don't have to be the one that decides. You get a reading, you ask your friends, you make a pros and cons list, you sleep on it, you make a new list, and somewhere in all of that, you knew before all of this. You just didn't trust it. That's the shadow side of the magician, by the way. You have all the tools in front of you. And the High Priestess complication is that what happens when you have all of the tools, but you're waiting for some sign or feeling to tell you when to pick them up? The High Priestess doesn't have more information than you, by the way. She just has more trust. She's sitting between two opposing forces and she is not phased. She's not paralyzed or frantically consulting the scroll to see what she should do. She is still because she knows that truth comes when you block out that outside noise. The scroll in her lap contains sacred wisdom, but it's partially covered. Not because that knowledge is being withheld or you can't have it, but because some knowledge can't be revealed until you're ready to receive it. And that's not something you can outsource or Google your way into. So the question I want to leave you with is this, and you can journal this or just let it bop around in your head. But what do you already know that you're pretending you don't? Not something you're unsure about or something you still need to figure out. But what do you already know? What truth has been sitting inside, partially covered, waiting for you to walk by and stop pretending you don't see it? Now, if that question landed, if you felt something when I asked that, I want you to bring that thing to a power hour. It's 60 minutes, one-on-one, you and me. You bring that thing and you walk away with a decision made, a clear next step, and the satisfaction of closing that loop. I'm opening 3 spaces for 111 each. After that, they go up to 222. The link is in the description. And if you want to go deeper with the High Priestess energy, I've got some affirmations and additional journal prompts in the description of this video. I hope you go check them out. Thank you so much for watching. I had a great time diving into the High Priestess with you. This is one of my favorite cards, and I hope that you feel her too. Next up is the Empress. So we are still in our feminine era, and I'm not mad about it. Until then, that's the tea from the tarot. Go out and live it.